Hello everyone, welcome to my session on versioning with Git. This is another session in DevOps full course playlist, and we do have other videos also in this playlist which talks a lot about what DevOps and what is the importance of DevOps, benefits of DevOps basically, what changes DevOps brought in IT industry after it got implemented. So I strongly insist everyone to go ahead and watch it. If anyone did not watch it, if this is the first time anyone is joining in this session, then I strongly insist to go and check in the playlist and watch other videos also. That is very, very important for you to understand the foundations of why DevOps is pretty much important. And again, if you feel as if my videos could be beneficial for someone else, could be helpful to others, please share it with others and subscribe in case if you did not do it yet. Okay, so what we are going to learn today in our today's session, we are going to learn versioning with Git, wherein we are going to talk about what is version control system, which is a very, very essential in today's world. Version control system, types of version control system, multiple types of version control system could be there. What are the different types of version control system, and again why Git is a clear winner. It's a clear winner for sure, it's a clear winner. But why Git is a clear winner, we are going to learn about that. What is the difference in between Git and GitHub? Because these are all the topics which I'm covering, which basically very commonly asked interview question. Whenever you appear for an interview, they normally ask different types of version control system. They normally ask, okay, fine, why Git is a clear winner? There are other vendors also in market. Why do you think Git always prevails on others? And also there is a very commonly asked question which is very conceptual also. What is the difference in between Git and GitHub? And this question, difference between Git and GitHub, I heard asking many of the candidates who are joining in my session. And at the end, we'll discuss something about interview question and answers, some typical interview question and answers for Git. This is the first session of Git. I'll have another session of Git also, wherein I'll go in depth about Git. Okay, so let's begin our first session. What is version control system? I'll start it with very simple example. Can think about any software which you have used as of now, any hardware or any software which you have worked as of now. Zoom or any of the meeting applications, Team, Slack, even Windows as a software. Every software in this universe which is built at this now goes through versioning. So versioning. What is versioning? What do you mean by versioning? Versioning basically means creating multiple versions of same type of object, isn't it? It's like if you have a software, you certainly will try to enhance that software from version 1.0, then you will go to version 1.1, then you will go to perhaps version 1.2, so on and so forth. And maybe you can land down to version 2.0, so on and so forth. You can land down to maybe version 24.0 also. So different types of softwares always go through versioning. Why they go through versioning? To enhance their capability. Think about this. Zoom as an application, initially when they came up, they had just the capability of audio sharing. Now with the help of Zoom, you are able to do video sharing. You are able to share your screen also. You are able to have multiple participants joining in the meeting, record your session. So many things can happen. Teams came in with the very lower capability, with the very basic sort of feature at the initial days, but gradually it evolved and it reached out to these many different versions, so that these many features got embedded into it, right? And how this happened, it's not as if any of the software which comes in market already do have these all features along with it, associated along with it. No, they come up with the basic feature when they launch in market, and based on the feedback which they provide, which they get from customers, they start enhancing. So what are the things which we are learning about? We are learning about is versioning. Whenever versioning comes in, whenever versioning comes in, any software comes up with some basic basic initial feature, right? So that is the first thing which comes up with any of the software, basic initial feature. And this basic initial feature is then rolled over to market. This basic initial feature then reaches to customer customer provides feedback on it, customer provides feedback on it, and based on the feedback of the customer, again another version is released, further versions. So you see, everything is interrelated. Everything is interrelated, and this is what versioning is. What versioning talks about? Versioning talks about creating multiple versions of same application, and with each version you provide some enhancement on the existing application, some modification, as simple as that. So in case if somebody asks me in interview, hey, what do you understand by versioning? Versioning is enhancing the capability of any software. With each enhancement I bring in some additional feature to existing application based on consumers feedback, because eventually what's going to happen, any of the software which is built by the organization reaches to customer, so this has to have some sort of features included in it. So this is versioning. Also, there is another advantage of versioning is, consider that you have built a software. Consider, say you have built a software, software 1. This software 1 had some features, maybe feature 1 and feature 2. Initially when it is launched, it had these two features, feature 1, feature 2. This was the version 1 of software. Consider feature 1 and feature 2 is the version 1 dot 0 of software. Now in version 1.1 or version 2.0, what companies has done? Companies has added some additional features. In version 2.0, companies had added maybe feature 2 also, feature 2 also, sorry, feature 3 also, and maybe feature 4 also, right? So this is feature 4 also. Now consider this one is your version 2.0. Again in version 3.0, some additional feature is added. Again, if I talk about version 3.0, some additional feature is added to it in version 3.0. Consider that feature 5 and feature 6 is also added to it, right? And this bigger one is your version 3.0. Version 3.0. Now, after version 3.0 is released, companies thought that no, version 3.0 is an overhead. There are so many features, 5 and 6 and 3 and 4 associated already to the application, and I'm not getting proper benefits out of it. So I want to again roll back to feature 1 and 2, which were the version 1.0. Perhaps you took the time difference in between the launch of version 1.0 and version 2.0 is say 1 month, and the time difference in between feature 2.0 and feature 3.0 is say again 1 month, right? Is say again 1 month. Now what you're seeing here is, with the launch of different version there is a time gap for sure, and after launch of version 3.0, if the company says that no, I did not like the version 3.0, I liked version 1.0 much better, and I was getting more of the consumers responses and more of the consumers feedback on positive feedback on 1.0, I have to roll back. Then that is where versioning comes in. If you're saving in your laptop say certain sort of code or certain application, then suddenly you will delete the previous version, because you'll say that okay, 2 months old data who will keep. But again, there might be a situation when you have to roll back, right? And when you're rolling back to previous version, that is where versioning comes in. So versioning is a helpful feature when you are rolling back to previous version also. That is another advantage of versioning, right? Okay, so now we learned about what is versioning. Now let's try to learn more about where do we have, what are the different types of version control system, right? What are the different, now as of now we are not even talking about Git, we are just understanding what is versioning and all. What are the different types of version control system? Version control system, this is very important interview question, so you have to be ready with this. Version control system is also abbreviated as VCS. This is also known as source code management. There are two names to it: version control system and source code management, also abbreviated as SCM. What are the types? So widely there are two types of version control system. right? Widely, if on wider terms, there are two types of version control system or source code management. The first type is called centralized version control system, centralized version control system, and the second one is called distributed version control system. This is distributed. So what is the difference? And this is again very commonly asked interview question. What is the difference in between centralized version control system and distributed version control system? The thing which happens with centralized version control system is there is always a centralized server approach. In case of centralized version control system, there is always a central server approach. So there is always a central server approach. So this is called central server. Okay, there is a central server. Now, it is always true that there will be multiple team members who will be working in an organization to develop certain application. For example, software one or software X, there will be multiple developers. So consider that there are developer one and developer two who are working together, developer 1 and developer 2. These two are working together to build some software which is software 1. So these both are working together to build a software, say software 1. So they are working together to build a software. So developer 1, developer 2, both are working together. So now developer 1 and developer 2 has to share their code for sure with each other, right? In order for developer 1 to developer with to share the code with developer 2, with centralized server, the centralized type of version control system, the only way is central server. So developer 1 will be able to share the code with developer 2 only with central server. So what you are seeing here, you are seeing here single point of failure, single point of failure, SPOF, single point of failure. So what happens with this single point of failure? In case if the central server goes down for some reason, the connectivity in between developer 1 and developer 2 breaks. There are many other reasons for that, but this is the wider reason. As we grow, as we start working on more of the demos, I'll explain more of the in-depth understanding of what is the drawback of central server. But this is one of the reason why companies started moving from centralized server approach to distributed server approach. Now what happened, what the benefit distributed server provided in this case? Now in distributed server also, consider that they were developing another software 2. Now in this software again, developer 1 and developer 2 were working. Now this is called distributed type of version control system. In this case also we have a central server. In this case also we have a central server. But what this distributed allows to create a local copy of central server with each of the developer. So this one is local copy of central server, local copy of central server. So from central server, developer 1 is capable of to create a local copy, and same is true with developer 2 also. Developer 2 is also capable of creating a local copy of central server. So now what is the benefit? Now developer 1, developer 2, even though central server goes down, they have their local copy. They have their local copy of central server. Now also developer 1 will be able to modify something in local copy and will be able to keep it with themselves without sharing it with anyone. So sharing will only happen in between developer 1 and developer 2 through central server, but it's not as in they can share only the content of central server. They will be able to share the content of local copy. They will be able to share completely their local copy also. How they can share this concept, sharing of local copy, if I have to tell you, sharing of local copy, the another concept is there in Git, which is sharing of local copy, sharing of local copy. So of local copy sharing of local copy, what we call as sharing of local copy, sharing of local copy, this concept is known as forking or fork. in get another interview question. What is fork? What do you understand by fork? So fork is normally called sharing of local copy. Anyone who has created their own copy of central server can share with each other. Anyone will be able to create their own copy of the server by using fork. So what they do, they fork the central server, and whenever they want, they will be able to allow others also to fork from their fork, right? So there are so many folks which could happen with this. So this is called forking of local copy. Okay, so these are the different types of version control system. Let's understand some examples also. Examples of central server, we can say that example of server central server is SVN, CVS. There are more like Perforce, Bazaar. There are so many. And we with this examples of distributed server is Git and GitHub. We have uh, not and, otherwise you will think that okay fine, these are the only two, there are many others also. So Git, we have GitHub, we have Bamboo. Sorry, Bamboo is not there, it's a kind of CI/CD one. We do have GitLab, we have Bitbucket. So these are the multiple vendors of or multiple providers of distributed version control system, right? So this is the difference in between two widely known type of version control system, which is centralized and distributed types of version control system. Now let's quickly understand another topic, which is the difference. What is the difference in between Git and GitHub? Actually, we are starting with Git and GitHub now. Git and GitHub. Let's start with these two widely known terms nowadays. These are the buzzwords which normally you will hear nowadays, Git and GitHub. So what is Git and GitHub? Okay, so let's try to understand difference in between. What is the difference in between Git and GitHub and what actually they are? So Git is the software. Git is the version controlling software basically. So if I talk about Git, so this is the version controlling software. Git, it is, it is the VCS software. So this is Git, it is version controlling system software. So what you can do, you can install Git in your machine. And I'll tell you something. Initially, when Git came up, there were no concept of GitHub. GitHub came much later, right? So Git, it is a version control system which is actually allowing us to create local copy of central server. Now, initially, what we used to do, initially we had Git and Git was installed in some virtual machine. Git was installed in some virtual machine, some virtual machine, or EC2 instance. In case if you feel as if EC2 instance is the more technical term in terms of AWS, then let's put it as Git was installed in VM or EC2. And with Git being installed in VM or EC2, we were able to create our own version controlling server. We were able to create our own version controlling server, server VCS central server. We were able to create our own VCS central server, but there were certain drawbacks of it. With this kind of approach, management was not that good, versioning was not that proper. Also with Git you get lots of features like multiple team members is able to push their code to version control system. We did not had a proper graphical user interface, that fancy user interface we did not had with this kind of, of approach, though Git comes with its own UI, right? Git has its own UI, it has its own UI also. Git has its own UI user interface, but the user interface of Git is not as fancy as GitHub. Okay, so that is where companies started drifting from just from using Git to GitHub. But again, GitHub also uses same sort of concept. The inner concept of GitHub is same as Git. So you can say GitHub is a wrapper. What is GitHub? If I have to define GitHub, then GitHub is nothing but GitHub is a wrapper. What is GitHub? So if I have to define GitHub, then GitHub is a wrapper. What is GitHub? GitHub is a wrapper on top of Git. That's it. Nothing other than that. What is GitHub? It is a wrapper. It is a wrapper on Git. Internally, it uses same Git features. Those set of commands which we have used in Git, same sort of commands you are going to use along with GitHub also. But GitHub do have some fancy interfaces now. It provides more enhanced features than Git. It gives you more better functionalities than Git. That is where GitHub got an edge. Right. So this is basic theory about Git and GitHub. So what you have learned till now, you have learned what is versioning, you have learned why versioning, what are the advantages of versioning, different types of version control systems, centralized and distributed, why Git is a clear winner, and what is the difference in between Git and GitHub. These all things you have seen. Now let's quickly get into demo. Right, lots of theory. Okay, now let's quickly get into demo, and in the demo I'm going to show you how to first install Git, and then how to work on Git. Some preliminary step. Gradually in our upcoming session I'll talk more and more about Git in more details, but put in your input in the comments also what else you're looking for from Git, any specific topic which you want me to cover in Git. I'll certainly cover that also. Fair enough. So now let's first do that. The first thing is how to install Git. So in order to install Git, if you go to internet and if you check for how to install Git, as simple as that, how to install Git. In order to do that, you see Git SCM getting started installing. So you have everything which you need to install Git. So if you come to this page, you click on downloads. Git provides binaries to get installed in all the different kind of operating system: Mac OS, Windows, Linux, Unix. Whatever operating system you have, you can use that. Mine is Linux Unix because I created one EC2 instance. If you have not created EC2 instance, if you're working with Windows, you can download the Windows binary itself. So mine is Linux Unix, and to that even mine is Ubuntu. So in case if yours is Fedora or yours is CentOS, then use Yum, because Yum is the package manager for Fedora and CentOS. Now for Debian or Ubuntu, this is the package manager apt-get. I'm going to copy this, and after I copy this, I'll come here and paste. As simple as that, right? As simple as that. Come here and paste. Okay, since my session is disconnected, let me quickly restart my session, and then I will show you here. Apt-get install git, and hit enter. You see it's already pre-installed. If it's not installed, then it will start installing for you. So normally nowadays, if you create any instance, Git will be pre-installed in it. Right. So if it's not installed, but certainly it's going to install for you. Okay. After it's been done, the first thing which you have to do is create a folder for yourself. In order to create a folder for yourself, the command which we learned in our previous session is mkdir make directory. And after that, I write the name of the folder which I want to create, git demo. Now I will enter into this directory. Cd is the command, git demo, and here I'll execute my first git command. The first git command which you will execute is git init. What happens with this command? With git init command, you have initialized your empty git repository. You have initialized your git repository with git init command, and you have created .git directory. Now if I execute the command ls-la, you see, as I executed git init command, it says that I have initialized my empty git repository, and as it says I've initialized, it created a .git directory for me. And as it created .git directory for me, my Git is initialized in this version control. So both are vice versa. You see, I'm using terms here interchangeably. I'm saying that if you execute git init command, then .git folder is created. And if the .git folder is present at any folder, the Git is initialized in that specific folder, right? And both are true. Okay, so now what is present in .git? That is another very important thing which you need to understand. So in .git, you see, references, objects, info, hooks, description, config, branches, heads, so many things are present. Normally, whatever you do with Git, it will create an object. Whatever file you are creating here in the machine, in the folder which is reference tracked by Git, it is considered as an object basically. Right? So here you see it is considered as an object here. Okay, so this is the basic thing which you wanted to know about Git. And in my upcoming session, I'll show you more of the features of Git, where I'll create one version controlling system for you. I'll create some branching strategy for you, right? Just put in your comments, write in your comments on your more expectation from this. So what you have learned today? Today you have learned what is version controlling and how Git is a clear winner, and also you have learned how to install Git and how do you recognize a directory is managed by Git or not by the presence of .git folder within it. Thank you everyone. Share this video with others also to whom you think could be beneficial with these all contents.